1945-2025. 80 anos. Uma porta aberta para o futuro.
What an impressive 80 years of history. Congratulations to the president of Centro Nacional de Cultura. Allow me also to add how emotional I felt when I was seeing these images of how you contributed to bringing democracy back to this country, how you have been fighting through the power of culture and education and knowledge for democracy and human rights. And allow me to say that in my country of origin, now, as we are speaking, tens of thousands of people, led by students and cultural leaders and academic leaders, are fighting for the same values in 2025, and I hope that, like you, have contributed to the victory of democracy that will happen in my own country. Allow me to just share that message with you, because I feel very emotional about that. So, Centro Nacional de Cultura, thank you for being also, we have seen a proud ambassador of Europe, of Europa Nostra, and also being the coordinator of our hub in Lisbon. And together we are promoting the European Heritage Hub across Europe, and also with the support of the Gulbenkian Foundation. So, you know, l'union fait la force, and that's what Europe is all about. For the opening address of this evening of celebration, I'm now delighted to give the floor to our host and Europa Nostra's theme partner, the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, represented here by trustee Guillermo de Oliveira Martins. Guillermo, la parole est à toi.
Senhora Ministra da Cultura, é para nós um grande gosto recebê-la aqui nesta casa.
Receiving us here, allow me to give you a special greeting to the laureate today, Maria João Pires. For us, is a true symbol, and we welcome her with open arms. So, a greeting to Dr. Maria Calado, Abreu, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. So, it is with great emotion that I talk to you today after having seen these images. And for those who know the cultural history of Portugal, know that there was nobody, that all relevant people were mentioned in this film. This year, in which the National Centre of Culture celebrates 80 years of life, we have just recalled a history full of art, culture, and memory. And let us highlight today the importance of Helena Vaz da Silva's example, which is a mark of modernity and hope for the future. And then I do not forget the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the Council of Europe Convention on the Value of Cultural Heritage and Contemporary Society, signed in Faro on 27th of October 2005, and which is a mark of Helena's living testimony, corresponding to one of the seeds that she left us and that I only tried to follow, and that fortunately is currently in force. That is the most modern convention of the world, defending cultural heritage, distributing the most important concepts within UNESCO. And let me recall today somebody who has always accompanied us on the jury of this prize. I'm talking about our late departed friend Francisco Pinto Balsamar, who still participated in the decision that was made today to award the prize to Maria João Pires. And I must talk about Europa Nostra. Agnieszka's been here. She's part of our home. She's our real friend. And in a special moment that we meet, we are beginning a new phase of the important European Heritage Hub, in which the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation has participated from the outset, and which will be more involved from now on through financial and operational support aimed at strengthening shared European values in terms of cultural heritage, intellectual dialogue, and civil society engagement. Cultural heritage, as we said a few days ago in Brussels, is imagination, memory, and art, and counts as a decisive factor of citizenship, European citizenship. If we want to build a future of peace, openness and sustainability, we need to recognise the cultural heritage in its various dimensions. Yesterday we had the opportunity to start a new initiative with Maria João Pires in a dialogue, a very rich dialogue that is established with Agnieszka, talking about European values and the values of culture and art. And we mustn't forget that it's these values of culture and art that must mobilize us. And that is part of the project that seeks to make alive the fundamental values of the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, the National Centre for Culture, and Europa Nostra in Varietate Concordia. Artists, thinkers and citizens, to get them to think together, to reflect in common, so that minds and wills will be factors of peace, justice and development in the name of a home and the future. And allow me to say, or rather to be the bearer of a message from Edgar Morin, which joins our initiative with all his heart, and we, within the scope of the 80 years of the Centro Nacional de Cultura, we are going to publish a volume about Edgar Morin's Portuguese friends and the resistance for the construction of a democracy that Edgar Morin has always found here. So the Faro Convention is a wake-up call that must enable us to defend and preserve what we have received from the generations before us. These are material heritage, monuments, temples, landmarks of human presence, but also intangible heritage, traditions, recipes, testimonies of life and nature and landscapes as milestones in the dialogue between society and the natural environment. Rebellion was a champion of the safeguarding of landscape as an essential element of cultural heritage. Cultural heritage is not a reality of the past, but a permanent reality that must be a factor of peace, mutual respect, and intercultural dialogue. Today we also celebrate the winners. So the heritage starts here, and the artistic creation nowadays for those who make art, share art, and guarantee that culture will be a living reality. And today we also celebrate the winners of the Europa Nostra Awards. Among these are three notable Portuguese projects: the National Museum of Resistance and Freedom in the Peniche Fortress in the category of conservation and adaptation to new uses, with a project by the architect João Pires Matos in the year in which we mark 50 years of the democratic revolution of the 25th of April 1974. The Saber Fazer program in the category of education, training and skills for safeguarding traditional arts and crafts, bridging between urban and rural areas, transforming ancestral techniques into tools of cultural and economic resistance. Also, the project Al-Malayish, weaving the future with the tapestry of time, by the municipality of Coimbra in the category of citizen engagement and awareness raising. It is a project for the mobilization of local communities and the active participation of young people, in addition to the preservation of intangible heritage. The initiative strengthens social cohesion, values cultural diversity, and encourages inclusion, integrating different knowledge and experiences. At a decisive moment for Europe, when we are called upon to make a positive statement and act in the global context, culture, education and science must take a stand with practical results. The award of the Helena Vaz da Silva European Prize for the Dissemination of Cultural Heritage to the extraordinary artist, who is Maria João Pires, is the recognition of a person who is a living symbol of culture and art as a pianist of choice. The way in which it has been affirmed as a gifted interpreter has made it possible to reveal through the history of music the creative and mobilizing force of the greatest authors and the influence they have exerted on the affirmation and consolidation of a European spirit based on freedom and culture. We are facing one of the most poetic, innovative and influential pianists in Europe and the world. In addition to being a unique interpreter, she is a visionary educator, a cultural thinker, and a silent revolutionary that we must highlight, which corresponds to the symbol that we want to be in contemporary society. The symbols of the culture, science, literature and arts, and so we have a dynamic idea of cultural heritage. So we are in the centre of European reflection and at the core of the universalist defence of the dignity of the human person, so that all human beings are free and equal in dignity and rights. Thank you very much.
Merci infiniment, cher Guilherme. You're really, I was listening to you and I thought, what a personification of the spirit of the Gulbenkian Foundation, of the spirit of the Centro Nacional de Cultura, and of the spirit of Europa Nostra. So single-handedly, you are sort of combining all these three organizations in an exceptional way. And indeed, what an emotion for us that here and now in Lisbon, we are sort of going to a next level of our partnership with the Gulbenkian Foundation, and we are very grateful for your decision to support this initiative. In varietate concordia, unity in diversity. That's what is the strength of the European Union, and what an emotion that here, with our dear, your and our Maria João Pires, we made the very first podcast that we will soon be broadcasting, and it will be available for the viewers across Europe and beyond. So our partnership continue to be even stronger in the future. But back to the core subject of this evening, and this is the Helena Vaz da Silva European Award, and I'm inviting Madam Maria Calado, President of Centro Nacional de Cultura and President of the jury of the Helena Vaz da Silva Award, to take the floor. Maria, the floor is yours.
Boa tarde. Senhora Ministra da Cultura, da Juventude e do Desporto, Senhor Administrador da Fundação Gulbenkian, caro Guilherme Oliveira Martins, anfitrião desta cerimónia, Senhora Secretária-Geral da Europa Nostra, querida Senesca Mihailovic, hei de andar muito tempo sem conseguir pronunciar o apelido.
Your surname, Mrs. Teresa Ferreira, representing the President of Turismo de Portugal, President of the Portuguese Press Club, relatives of Helena Vaz da Silva, members of the jury of this prize, illustrious prize laureate. The reason for this afternoon session, welcome dear Maria João Pires and also dear Paul Dujardin, who will present the award, and dear guests. The Helena Vaz da Silva European Prize is one of the most relevant projects of the National Centre of Culture, as we've just heard and acknowledged. It gives shape and form to the ideals of what was for us a charismatic president, Helena Vaz da Silva, who highlighted the essentiality of culture for citizenship, development, and happiness. We evoke her action in the Portuguese context and in international bodies and institutions of reference, such as the European Parliament, the Council of Europe, UNESCO, and Europa Nostra that we've mentioned. Within the scope of Europa Nostra, the largest civil society network in the area of cultural heritage, and which the National Centre for Culture has the honor of officially representing in Portugal, we are involved in major international projects and partnerships promoting culture and strengthening the voice of citizens in the defense and valuation of common ideals. This is the case for the European Heritage Hub, which was mentioned, and the European Heritage Awards, also referred to, that I congratulate, and also the Helena Vaz da Silva European Prize, whose nomination proposals come from members of Europa Nostra. Since 2013, this award has been this prize has been awarded annually to a European citizen whose career has excelled in disseminating, defending, and promoting Europe's cultural heritage. The National Centre of Culture implements this project in partnership with other institutions, the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation and the Portuguese Press Club. These are partners that we highly value, and we thank these institutions in the person of their representatives. The prize has public sector involvement and financial support, the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Tourism of Portugal, but also from the private sector, such as the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, which is both an active partner and patron. To all of you, our thanks, especially to the Ministry of Culture for sharing this vision of cultural heritage in which memory and contemporary creation are inseparable. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs for believing in the role of a non-governmental organization in the international representation of Portugal, to Turismo de Portugal for its strategic vision of valuing heritage and culture as tourist resources. We're still counting on you. This prize is awarded by an international jury made up of personalities, relevant personalities, to the curriculum and activity in the field of communication and culture, to prestige, knowledge, rigor, and permanent involvement. We owe the award and qualification of the prize on behalf of the National Centre of Culture, and also as chairman of the jury, I express our deep thanks and a very affectionate embrace to Piet Jasper, Irina Subotico, Mariana Yeterdal, Guilherme de Oliveira Martins, and João David Nunes. I want to highlight the relevance of Francisco Pinbalsemão, a member of the jury since the creation of this prize. With his knowledge relevance, and cordiality. He has made a decisive contribution over the years. Little by little, we note with great nostalgia the responsibility to follow his example. By mentioning him, I ask you to join me in a round of applause in his memories. This year, the distinction fellow Maria João Pires, whom I congratulate, it was a proposal from the National Centre for Culture that the jury welcomed. The decision was enthusiastic and unanimous. It's a significant milestone in a year in which we mark the 80 years of our institution's life. The presentation of this award will be made by Paul Dujardin, President of Europa Nostra Belgium, who knows well the path of Maria João Pires in the field of art and citizenship. Thank you very much for your cooperation. I would like to thank João David Nunes for the film shown, and also thank Guilherme Oliveira Martins for the text. I would also like to highlight the National Center team that contributed to this project, as well as the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation team, and also special thanks to the President of the Republic for the way in which, over the years, he has accompanied the Helena Vaz da Silva Prize, and in the impossibility of attending this ceremony in person, has left us with a significant message. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, querida Maria, once again. Happy 80th birthday, not of you, but of your formidable organization. And congratulations of the high and much-deserved decoration, distinction that you have received from the President of the Republic on this occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, organizations like Centro Nacional de Cultura and Europa Nostra are both civil society organizations. That means that our power lies in the contribution of so many individuals, so many professionals who are giving as volunteers their expertise and time. So I want to thank many of them are here in this room to thank you all for your support for organizations. But I also want to allow me to pick up one person, and I want to pay tribute to our outgoing council member, Emilio Rui Vilar. Emilio, you have been for many years representing the voice of Portugal in our council, and you have done a lot also to help further strengthen and bring this partnership with the Gulbenkian Foundation, but in general in Portugal, to higher levels. So, muito obrigada, Emilio, and we continue to work together. And so what do we do as civil society organization? We use that voice to be the advocates of cultural heritage, and to convince the leaders of public bodies on all levels, from local to national and European and even global, that heritage matters. And that's why we are really delighted that the Portuguese Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports is with us tonight, and I'm delighted to give the floor to Madam Margarita Balseiro Lopes.
Senhora Presidente do Centro Nacional de Cultura, Senhor Administrador da Fundação Calouste Gulbenkian, já é a segunda vez que cá estou esta semana. Senhora Secretária-Geral da Europa Nostra, cara premiada Maria João Pires, Senhora Diretora-Geral das Artes, Senhora Diretora do Turismo de Portugal, caros vencedores dos prémios Europa Nostra 2025 e minhas senhoras e meus senhores. É com muito gosto que participo nesta cerimónia de entrega do Prémio Europeu Helena Vaz da Silva, uma distinção que há mais de uma década reconhece quem contribui de forma notável para valorizar e dar visibilidade ao património cultural europeu. Mais do que um prémio, é um gesto de reconhecimento a todos os que fazem da cultura um espaço de partilha e de construção coletiva e que ajudam a reforçar o sentimento de pertença à nossa herança comum. Esse espírito de abertura e diálogo que inspira este prémio é também aquele que tem guiado o Centro Nacional de Cultura, que este ano assinala 80 anos ao serviço da cultura, da liberdade e do pensamento crítico. 8 décadas de trabalho exemplar que fazem do Centro Nacional de Cultura uma referência, pela independência de pensamento que sempre cultivou e pela forma como soube criar e cruzar gerações, geografias e ideias em torno de um mesmo princípio, o de que a cultura é um espaço de encontro e de liberdade. Desde a sua fundação, o Centro Nacional de Cultura foi uma casa de resistência e de pensamento. Um espaço que, em tempos difíceis, deu voz à liberdade e que depois de abril se afirmou como um centro vivo de criação e de reflexão sobre o lugar da cultura na sociedade contemporânea. Ao longo destes 80 anos, manteve-se sempre fiel à sua missão: aproximar as pessoas da cultura e a cultura das pessoas. E é esse percurso de serviço público que hoje também celebramos. Pela sua natureza e pela forma como sempre entendeu a cultura, o Centro nunca se fechou sobre si próprio. Desde muito cedo procurou dialogar com o mundo e afirmar Portugal no espaço europeu e internacional. Foi com essa missão que se tornou representante da Europa Nostra em Portugal, a maior rede europeia dedicada à valorização e à defesa do património cultural. Uma rede que há mais de 60 anos tem promovido a cooperação entre países e instituições, unindo património, sustentabilidade e cidadania sob uma mesma visão europeia. Também nesse espírito, esta cerimónia acolhe a entrega de 3 prémios Europa Nostra 2025, que distinguem 3 projetos portugueses de exceção: o Museu Nacional de Resistência e Liberdade, em Peniche, o programa Saber Fazer e a tecelagem tradicional de Almalaguês. Exemplos extraordinários da vitalidade do nosso património, que projetam Portugal no espaço europeu e que mostram como o património se renova e continua a inspirar novas formas de criar, educar, partilhar e viver a cultura. Todos estes reconhecimentos, os que hoje aqui celebramos e os que a Europa Nostra tem vindo a distinguir ao longo destes anos,
Awarding over the years, share the same conviction that cultural heritage is not only what we inherit, but also what we choose to preserve, interpret, and transmit. It is from this same desire to give voice to people and ideas that the Helena Vaz da Silva European Prize for the Dissemination of Cultural Heritage was born, an award created by the National Cultural Centre, Europa Nostra, and the Portuguese Press Club, which distinguishes personalities who, through their work, have made a remarkable contribution to giving visibility to European cultural heritage. For the past decade, the Helena Vaz da Silva Prize has established itself as one of the most prestigious cultural awards in Europe. It has recognized writers, journalists, filmmakers, curators, and artists who, each in their own way, have made heritage a space for communication between the past and the present, and especially for the inspiration for the future. A woman of culture, journalist, European thinker, and attentive citizen, Helena Vaz da Silva was one of the figures who best personalized the idea that heritage is not just a collection of goods, but a way of being in the world. Through journalism, civic action, and commitment to Europe, she helped us understand that culture is a territory of coexistence, dialogue, and democratic construction. It is this legacy, made of freedom, curiosity, and generosity, that this award perpetuates, and that today we continue to celebrate. This year, this prize is awarded to Maria João Pires, and few figures could symbolize the spirit of this award so well. Throughout her decades-long career, Maria João Pires has built a remarkable and unique artistic journey. A world-renowned pianist, I read this one, she doesn't consider herself as such. She's also one of the performers, interpreters who best understands music as universal language, a language that connects peoples, generations, and sensitivities. But her contribution goes far beyond virtuosity and international career. Maria João Pires has given us a rare example of consistency, humility, and a sense of cultural mission. From the Belgai Center in Portugal to the Partido project, which brings together musicians and young people from different countries, her work has been a testament to what culture can be most transformatively, bring people together and inspire new generations. With a life dedicated to art and teaching, Maria João Pires has shown that music doesn't belong only in concert halls, but also in schools, in underprivileged areas, and in all places where it can be shared and experienced, always experienced authentically. The distinction she received from the Imperial Prize from Japan, the UNESCO Prize, the Pessoa Prize, recognized not only her talent, but also the generosity of an artist who always knew how to put art at the service of the common good. For all these reasons, Maria João Pires is more than an exceptional interpreter performer. She's a true ambassador of Portuguese culture, a woman who has made music a bridge between tradition and the future, between rigor and emotion, between silence and the spoken word. Celebrating Maria João Pires is therefore celebrating the best of our country, of ourselves, talent that transforms into sharing, the individual gesture that becomes community, the sound that becomes collective memory. On behalf of the government of Portugal, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to Maria João Pires, the laureate, National Cultural Center, Europa Nostra, and the Portuguese Press Club for continuing to show us that cultural heritage, both tangible and intangible, is where Europe recognizes and renews itself. This ceremony is an affirmation of the value of culture as an essential good, teaching us to recognize the other, to value what is different, diverse, and to find meaning in what we share. Today, more than ever, we need to defend a culture that is free, pluralistic, and accessible to all. A culture that is not confined by borders, but that promotes dialogue and participation. A culture that unites past and future, knowledge and emotion, memory and creation. Culture is what keeps us human, what resists oblivion, and what connects who we were to who we can still be. And may this celebration remind us that the freedom to create, to think, and to share is the greatest asset of a vibrant Europe confident in its future, And may we all know how to continue defending it with the same courage and the same hope that we celebrate here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Minister, for your very forceful, inspiring words. Thank you for your presence and support tonight. But also, I want to tell you that we have high expectations from you and all your colleagues in the Council of Ministers of the European Union. We shall soon see the publication of the very first cultural compass for Europe, and we hope that you and your colleagues will support it very much as we count on the European Parliament, the Portuguese member of the European Parliament, all the other members of the Parliament to support it, because this is really an important mobilization for culture in Europe that we need today more than ever. Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends, before we proceed with the Helena Vaz da Silva European Award presentation, allow us to pay first tribute to this year's winners from Portugal of the European Heritage Awards, Europa Nostra Awards. Yes, so you see the logo of that award. Just a few words about this award. Since 2002, Europa Nostra has been proud to organize, in partnership with the European Commission, this annual award scheme, and which has become, in fact, the most prestigious award for heritage in Europe. We like to call it a European Oscar for heritage. And since 2002, a total of 28 outstanding heritage achievements from Portugal have received one of these European Oscars. Every year, we recognize up to 30 exemplary heritage achievements from all over Europe. And when I say all over Europe, it's not all over European Union. For us, Europe is La Grande Europe, and it covers all the countries of the Council of Europe, and which definitely include Ukraine and also Norway. So we have 5 categories: conservation and adaptive reuse, research, education, training and skills, and citizens' engagements and awareness raising, and last but not least, heritage champions. And every year we organize the high-profile European Heritage Award ceremony in a different European city. In 2012, we had this unforgettable ceremony here in Lisbon, in the majestic Jerónimos Monastery. You have seen in the film of the Centro Nacional de Cultura a few images of that ceremony. That was in 2012. But this year, we were in Brussels. We were in the iconic Art Deco Maison de la Radio, Flagey. We were there with the European Commissioner for Culture, Glenn Mikalev, and some of you were there also with us. So that was, in fact, part of the largest event that we organized every year, and that's the European Heritage Summit that we organized in Brussels. Now, after that memorable ceremony in Brussels, where we were on stage with all the winners for a stage, I'm delighted that we have the winners, Portuguese winners, who were there in Brussels with us, they're here now in Lisbon, and we will sort of hear briefly from them about their extraordinary projects. So we will start with the National Museum of Resistance and Freedom, Peniche Fortress. That project received an award in the category Conservation and Adaptive Reuse. The Peniche Fortress, I don't know, no, it's not on the slide. The Peniche Fortress, one of the main political prisons during the dictatorship in Portugal, has hosted the National Museum of Resistance and Freedom since 2024. Wonderful example of adaptive reuse of a building. Through careful adaptation and civic engagement, the site has fully engaged visitors with the values of liberty and democracy. It is my great pleasure to invite the representative from this remarkable project to join us on stage, architect João Barros Matos, project leader. Please take the floor.
Obrigado. Thank you, Snežka. Boa tarde a todos. Obrigado.
Thank you very much to the National Cultural Centre for this invitation to make this presentation, and thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much to the CNC for its work within the scope of the Europa Nostra Award. So the project is aimed at the rehabilitation of the fortress of Peniche and to turn this former prison into a museum. It started with a public competition for culture 2018. It was developed by for Museums and Monuments and was opened the 25th of April 1924. So before we see the video, I would like to highlight 2 points. The first is that the museum is the result of a long process, long and complex process of great wealth, which involved many people and different authorities. In this process, I would like to highlight the role of the commission created for the museum, composed by historians, former political prisoners, technicians from GPC, and myself. And this working group that had included Domingo Abrantes, Fernando Rosas, Michique Pereira, Isa Sena, director of the museum who's with us, Teresa Albino, and the former Director General, João Carlos da Silva. Both had a very important role to play in the building of the realization of the museum. So there was a very important reflection about the recent history of our country through this project. The second point has got to do with the intervention itself. This is a museum which is very unique because the space of the prison are an integral part of the contents. That is a space for memory where the visible and invisible overlap. So the focus of the intervention was to preserve the authenticity of the place and to keep inner spaces, patios, etc. But however, in architecture, to conserve is not only preserve or restore. On the contrary, to other areas like sculpture, for example, the building is a living organism with constant transformations over time and with the needs of new functions and new infrastructures. So based on the knowledge of the existing buildings and their evolution, the objective of the project was to transform the building, taking into account the history of the buildings.
The site of Peniche was once an island of rugged rock, isolated from the mainland. Due to its strategic importance for coastal defense, a large fortress was constructed here from the second half of the 16th century. Built directly onto the rock and using the very stone of the site, the fortification ensures a strong isolation from the mainland. From 1931 to 1974, under the dictatorship, the fortress served as one of the main political prisons, with the purpose of silencing the opponents of the regime. After the revolution of 25th April 1974, the prisoners were liberated, and the fortress itself became an important symbol in the collective memory. In recent years, facing the building's deterioration and following a commercial logic, the site was on the verge of being converted into a hotel. However, the struggle of a civic movement led to the decision to create a museum that preserves the memory of the resistance against the dictatorship. architectural project was based on preserving the authenticity of existing constructions, revealing 4 distinct layers of time: the rock, the fortress, the political prison, and the museum. At the same time, the intervention embraced the idea that conserving, adapting, and building anew are complementary actions that together form the core of the museum's concept. The entire project was organized around the cistern courtyard, part of the 16th century fortress, which has become a freely accessible public space. The old prison was divided into separate units, with buildings and courtyards completely isolated from each other. The adaptation into a museum required the creation of a new museological path that connects all the blocks and courtyards. New concrete elements were introduced, ensuring full accessibility for all visitors. Some interior spaces that had lost their character were transformed, including the entrance atrium, which is now served by the museum cafe and bookshop. The different levels of the prison cells were preserved, expressing the lived experience of incarceration, such as the parlatorio, the room where prisoners received their rare visits under the close surveillance of guards. New exhibition spaces were created, with the content presented in a dark, enclosed and protected atmosphere, shaping a place where memory is kept. Engraved on the memorial plaque are the names of more than 2,500 former political prisoners who were held in Peniche. Inaugurated on the 50th anniversary of the revolution, the museum became the city's main cultural hub, with visitors from all over the world standing out as a strong memory site of the resistance against fascism and the fight for freedom.
Obrigado. Fica só o convite, então, para visitarem o museu.
What an impressive project. Congratulations for your work, and we'll come very soon to visit the place. Sorry. Now, where we go? From the fortress Peniche or Peniche? How do you pronounce it? Peniche. So from there, we shall go now to the Saber Fazer program, which received an award in the category Education, Training and Skills. Saber Fazer is Portugal's national strategy for the safeguarding of traditional crafts and skills. It promotes knowledge transfer, sustainability and territorial cohesion by bridging urban-rural divides, turning ancestral techniques into tools for cultural and economic resilience. It is my great pleasure to invite the representative from this fascinating program to join me on stage, Mr. Américo Rodrigues, Director Geral des Artes. The floor is yours.
Obrigado. Boa tarde a todas e a todos. Antes de mais...
Everybody, first of all, I would like to thank the National Cultural Centre for this invitation, and obviously Europa Nostra for the recognition of our programme. So the National Saber Fazer programme was created in October 2020 under the initiative of the area of culture through a resolution of the Council of Ministers which establishes the strategy for Saber Fazer and presents measures to safeguard, recognise and the sustainable development of the sector of arts and traditional crafts as a way to identify the territories and the country. So the implementation of this initiative was given to the art department in the scope of the operationalization of PAR, which will continue through its integration as a structured political measure in the organics of the arts department. That is, once the PRR is over, the responsibility goes to the Department of Arts and will value the living arts, theatre, music, and strategy to decrease the inequalities, territorial inequalities, through the support of enhancement and promotion of artistic practices and within the scope of Saber-Fazer in the whole country. So the objective of the program is to consolidate traditional handicrafts as a dynamic, innovative and sustainable sector which actively contributes to the wealth and diversity of the cultural heritage and for the socio-economic development of the country. The program has 4 objectives. On the one hand, that is the preservation, collect, organize, produce and disclose knowledge on handcrafts and raw materials. On the other hand, training, that is to convey knowledge to new generations and new practices, and capacity building, and also the promotion and the cultural value of art and crafts. So as the repository, which is online, we can provide the public with documentation, and in this way they can identify the local agents involved in the production, the study, enhancement and the national crafts in a dynamic way with different levels of raw materials and knowledge. On the other hand, the development of educational activities which are aimed at a younger audience seek to encourage the interest in our heritage and to try and raise more awareness to the sector and get more persons involved, and to ensure that this will have a less negative effect on the planet. The workshops are different formats that can allow for moments of sharing and thinking about the traditional practices, to involving different local actors, production units and research, economic agents, and to overcome the challenges that arts and crafts as so as the roots. It's a bit for the roots. There are different topics, so which, for example, each one of us builds their own arts and crafts route. So this can be very important to identify and promote regions of Portugal and to sustainable practice which will sustain local communities. So the operationalization of the Saber-Fazer program still has the exposure of the Portuguese production. So this exposure has updates information and shows the relevance of the crafts in contemporary society. This exhibition is very interesting because it was created and complemented in each region where it settles, so that is through the contribution of the craftsmen. And so it was started in Luxembourg and has gone through different areas of Portugal and islands, and it marked its presence in the recent exhibition in Osaka 2025. So each one of the exhibitions in national territory is accompanied by a book published on the local program. The first book presents the principles and axes by which the program is guided. So the different books in the collection appears from each lab exploring the traditional techniques and have the contribution of specialists, the research and part of the arts and crafts areas, and pointing out the importance of the value of this sector. Final word, taking into account that I mustn't forget that I am the Director General of Arts, and so this was a word of congratulations to Maria João Pires. She's a personality, which is a true reference for each one of us. Thank you very much to the Centro Nacional de Cultura. I would like to. I was a grant holder of the Centro Nacional de Cultura. So I hope that the investment you made in me was a success. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation of this very exemplary project. And in fact, you are showing the way, not only in Portugal, but across Europe, how important the traditional crafts and skills are. And the last project that we will present to you tonight is the project Al-Malagesh, weaving the future from the tapestry of time from Coimbra. It won an award in the category Citizens Engagement and Awareness Trainings. This project has revitalized the traditional weaving of the village of Al-Malagesh, engaging local communities and younger generations through workshops, research, and cultural events. It has promoted intergenerational dialogue, ensuring the continuity of ancestral know-how. And it is my great pleasure to invite a representative from this project to join us on stage, Madame Maria Carlos Pego, Director of the Department of Culture and Tourism of the Municipality of Coimbra. The floor is yours.
Excelentíssima Senhora Ministra da Cultura, Juventude e Desporto, Excelentíssimo Administrador Executivo da Fundação Calouste Gulbenkian, Excelentíssima Presidente da Direção do Centro Nacional de Cultura, Dear Snežka Mihajlović, Secretary-General of Europa Nostra, querida Maria João Pires, e também cumprimento especial aos meus colegas representantes dos projetos vencedores dos Prémios Europeus do Património. Senhoras e senhores, é com grande honra que, em representação do município de Coimbra, participamos hoje na cerimónia da entrega do Prémio Europeu Helena Vaz da Silva para a divulgação do património cultural, celebrando também a distinção da tecelagem da Malaguês com o Prémio Europeu do Património. Este prémio é um reconhecimento que muito nos orgulha, mas, acima de tudo, é um tributo a uma comunidade inteira. Às mulheres de Almalaguês, às suas famílias.
To the women in Malaguês, as families, and how they have dedicated to the memory and the know-how that crosses centuries. And I would like to begin by thanking the National Centre of Culture, the representative of Europa Nostra in Portugal, for the work that they're carrying out in the international projection of Portuguese works in cultural heritage, integrating us in a European network and integrating us in in the context of good practices. And we know that your contribution was decisive for this practice to be recognised by Europa Nostra. Thank you very much for recognising that Malagasy weaving is not only a traditional craft, but it's a cultural heritage of great relevance, which can identify the future. And so the weaving has gone from one generation to another through the women by the way of the practices. The young girls learned with their mothers by hearing stories, observing techniques, and understanding symbols. With modernization, this practice was being threatened. The number of weavers has decreased. New generations are not so interested, and there was a real risk of it disappearing. And so it was within this context in 2017, the municipality of Coimbra, together with the community of weavers and Malagasy and other institutions, decided to act. So we started a process, a systematic process, to study weaving. And so we documented techniques and we looked at drawings and designs. So we involved the educational and scientific community. We worked together with schools, universities, polytechnics, research centres, cultural associations, and naturally with the weavers themselves, who will always be the heart, the core of this project. So throughout these last 17 years, we created exhibitions, fairs, books, educational material. We invited designers and contemporary artists to create a dialogue with this tradition, creating new life and new applications. And so we integrated refugees and immigrants to have a multicultural dialogue. And so we now have a place for weaving in Coimbra. Today, we can say that very proudly that the Malagasy weaving has become once again a living part of our knowledge. And so this year, the Malagasy weaving will be part of the National Inventory of the Cultural Patrimony and Heritage in Portugal, and which will be very important in order to safeguard this. We're not stopping here. We're creating an interpretive centre for crafts, and we're creating a digital platform to globally disseminate Malagasy weaving. And we hope that this tradition will be not only preserved but reinvented and shared. Ladies and gentlemen, the Malagasy weaving is very precious, and so it is not only a fabric, but it's a community. And this is what we celebrate today, not only the beauty of a tapestry, but the strength of a community that knows how to resist and survive. And we would like to thank the National Cultural Centre, the Europa Nostra, the European Commission, but we would also like to thank the women from Malagasy, to the weavers who with their hands remind us that memory is made of threads, but the future is a whole fabric. Thank you very much.
Absolutely beautiful project. So please also transmit our warmest congratulations and all our love to all these phenomenal women from Malagasy and their golden hands and their knowledge of this phenomenal weaving technique. And we need more of this. And we are very proud that it is the city of Coimbra that is the member, associate member of Europa Nostra that has been promoting this project. I think this is also a message that the role of cities in support of cultural heritage. We are delighted that also the city of Mafra, the city of Lisbon is also supporting the movement. We want many more cities to be part of that pan-European movement for heritage. Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends, now we have reached the central moment of this evening. The time has come to pay tribute to the winner of this year's Helena Vaz da Silva European Award, Maria João Pires. Très chère Maria João, what an honor it is for all of us to be here tonight with you at the Gulbenkian headquarters in Lisbon, your hometown, your native town. Let me read the words of the jury of the award. I think Guillermo has evoked them, but I will just read them once again. Just listen to these words. Maria João Pires is one of Europe's most poetic and influential pianists. Her work transcends performance. She is a visionary educator, a cultural thinker, and a quiet revolutionary in the field of musical heritage. Her career, deeply rooted in the values of empathy, inclusion, and artistic excellence, embodies the mission of the Helena Vaz da Silva Award, to raise public awareness on Europe's cultural heritage through impactful humanistic engagement. End of the quote of the explanation of the jury. Now, it is my pleasure to invite the President of Europa Nostra Belgium and Council Member of Europa Nostra, Paul Dujardin, to make a laudatory speech for Maria João Pires, and he will do that also on behalf of all members of the jury. Cher Paul, la parole est à toi.
Merci, Sneska. Merci, Maria João Pires.
Muito obrigada, Maria João Pires.
Je vais vous adresser en anglais, malheureusement pas en portugais. Your Excellency, Madame Minister, Madame Calado, dear members of the jury, dear friends of Europa Nostra, dear Sneska, dear colleagues from the Gulbenkian Foundation, dear Ambassador, dear Maria João. Tonight, we are not merely gathered to present an award. We are here to listen, not with our ears, but with our attention. To listen to a legacy that has grown in silence, in depth and in care. Maria João Pires reminded us last night that sound is not something you receive. It's something you create with your whole body. Music begins where the hand, the breath, and the heart start to resonate together. Just as movement reveals the invisible geometry between people, music too reveals the unseen harmony between bodies. It reminds us that arts begin where listening becomes the presence. It's an honor to speak here at the Foundation, a place I've cherished and collaborated with for more than 30 years, since the founding of ECHO, the European Concert Hall Association, where I was the Secretary General for so many years. And it's a profound joy to be in Portugal, not just a country of light and saudade, but a country that, through voice like that of Maria João Pires, has helped shape the conscience of Europe. For me, returning here also returning to a conversation that never ended, between Lisbon and Brussels, between art and conscience, between silence and sound. Tonight we stand as in a circle, each equally distant from the center, the place where her music meets our shared humanity. Today, as we also celebrate the 80th anniversary of the Centro Nacional de Cultura, a milestone for culture, language, and democracy in Portugal, what better occasion to honor a woman who has embodied these very values, with the piano as her only weapon, and silence as her greatest ally. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria João Pires was born in Lisbon in 1944, a time when Europe was torn apart by war. She began playing the piano at the age of 4, not to impress, but to express. And since then, her life has been a journey not of performance, but of presence. In 1970, she won the Beethoven competition in Brussels, a turning point that echoed far beyond the concert hall. From that moment, Europe discovered not only an exceptional talent, but a voice, delicate yet unshakable, that has shaped generations. I don't know, I remembered maybe more than 60 recordings, maybe more, from Mozart to Chopin, from Deutsche Grammophon to ICM, from Lisbon to Paris, to Tokyo, and to the poorest district in Belgium, Molenbeek. But her legacy is not in numbers. It's in nuance. She does not play to shine, but to share, not to dominate, but to listen. She reminded us that a true musician does not compete. One works together, prepares the piece, not a contest. For her, competition is a distortion of values, because art is never about being first, but about being sincere. And in dance, the measure is not speed, but presence, the grace of being in time, not ahead of it. And once she said, art is not a performance, it's a responsibility. And that responsibility begins with the body, with the breath, the touch, the silence between notes. She often says that modern pianos already contain the sound, but that we must rediscover how to create it and how to make the instrument speak through our own resonance. And it's in this dialogue between body and instrument, between discipline and freedom, that she finds truth, a movement of listening that unites the vertical search for meaning with the horizontal gesture of sharing. Maria João Pires has shown us that the piano can be more than a stage. It can be a sanctuary, a school of humility, and a language of peace. She also reminded us that talent can be spoiled by excess affection, but corrupted only by false values, by ambitions without soul. Dear friends, Maria João Pires' story is not only the story of a pianist. It's also a story of two countries, Portugal and Belgium, woven together by music, memory, and quiet diplomacy. Yes, in 1970, the Beethoven bicentennial competition in Brussels became the unlocked stage for a young Portuguese artist to speak a universal language. That moment, more than a victory, was a connection, a bridge, and that bridge has only grown stronger over the time. For Portugal, she was a revelation, a young woman carrying the lyricism of Lisbon onto an international stage. But for Belgium, she became the face of Europe that could listen again, a continent searching for meaning after May 68. She returned to Belgium not just to perform, but to plant seeds. With Augustin Dumay, the famous violinist, with the Queen Elizabeth Music Chapel, a small but world-renowned institution founded in the gardens of the Queen Elizabeth Estate near Waterloo, and later through projects in Brussels and in Molenbeek, she created space where music is not a luxury, but a right. She told us that sharing music among children of different origin was not about charity, but about equality of attention. That when young people play together, they build a new sense of belonging. And this is what art can do. When it moves from the stage into the social space, it redraws the invisible geometry between people. It was there that she tested a new idea, that learning music together could heal the fractures of a city. She would tell her students, some of them the children of migrants, that the piano is not an escape from life, but a way to listen to it more deeply. And I had the honor to welcome her many times at Beaux-Arts, the Center for Fine Arts in Brussels, that great house of dialogue at the heart of Europe. And I still remember her silences as vividly as her sound. In the middle of an encore, she would often stop, not out of hesitation, but out of truth. She once told me that silence for her was never absence. It was the moment when music finally begins to breathe. She taught us that architecture is choreography in stone, but what matters is not a building, but a space between its walls, the resonance it allows. Yes, her art, like this award, travels without passports, but carries the soul of nations. And between Portugal and Belgium, she built something far greater than a bridge, a conversation that continues to play softly across generations. Dear Maria João Pires, Maria João Pires did not stop at interpretation. She turns her life into education, not instruction, but transformation. In the hills of Portugal, as the minister already said, she founded Belgas, a sanctuary where music meets silence and care. There, children learn not only how to play, but how to listen to themselves, to nature, and to each other. Belgas is not a school, it's a vision. It grows from a ruin she rebuilt stone by stone, a place where every gesture, every note becomes a form of attention. And she asked her students to respect every room, every instrument, because learning, she said, begins with care. It's a choreography of small daily gestures, simple movement that together create harmony. That same spirit traveled north to Belgium, to partitura. Partitura is not a method. It became a philosophy. We should not compete, but care. Dixit Maria João Pires. To its workshops and choirs, she invited children of migration and silence to find their own voice in music, not in perfection, but in presence. There were moments, too, when she chose silence over compromise. She stepped aside to remain faithful to her vision and her rhythm, the rhythm of listening. From that pose came partitura, a space where teaching became exchange and hierarchy give way to harmony. Music, she said, is not about being the best. It's about being the true. In these fragile spaces, a classroom in Molenbeek, a rehearsal in a village hall, Maria João Pires revealed what pedagogy really means, the courage of care. Each note in her hands was a gesture of kindness. Belges and partitura reminds us that education, like music, begins with attention and ends in community. Ladies and gentlemen, Helena Vaz da Silva gave Europe a language to talk about heritage. Not only the stones of the past, but the meaning we pass on. Maria João Pires gives Europe something just as rare, a music of conscience. One worked with words, the other with silence. One built bridges through journalism, the other through sound. Both raised the spirit and grounded it in community. Both women shared the same quiet courage. They defended the invisible, the delicate, the human. And Maria João said, to protect fragility is not weakness, is strength. Culture is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And Helena taught us that journalism, when true, becomes memory. Maria João Pires shows that music, when sincere, became and becomes healing. They remind us that to defend culture is to defend dignity. Their art moves like a spiral, always returning, always deepening. Art is not how we escape in the world, it's how we return to it, more human. Dear friends, before I conclude, let me share a reflection on the present moment and what Maria João Pires teaches us today. We live in an age of acceleration and distraction, and yet, at the heart of Europe, a pianist reminds us of something eternal. Listening is an act of resistance. And Maria João Pires teaches us that heritage is not what we inherit, but what we choose to care and to pass on. In her world, a piano is not prestige, is a tool for healing and attention, and she brings music to children in rural Portugal, those who may never see Carnegie Hall, but will carry a rhythm in their lives. She says, our first task is to listen before we play and to let silence teach us the tempo of truth. And as we face the rise of the IA, the loss of silence and the noise of war, she offers us another path. Slowness as dignity, care as pedagogy, sound as memory. And in her hands, the Faro Convention becomes a daily practice, a reminder that the future of culture depends on how we listen to the invisible. Excellencies, dear friends, to conclude, Maria João Pires is not a monument. She is a direction, a silent, a persistent voice, guiding us toward deep, toward beauty, toward meaning, in a world torn between noise and nostalgia. She offers what we need most: presence, care, listening. And her legacy is not made of statues or grand statements. It lives in the hands of a child discovering Mozart, in a modest classroom anywhere in the world. It lives in the fragile gesture of two hands meeting over a keyboard, one old, one young, learning to trust time again. It lives in the encounter between two people who dare to listen, the beginning of every culture. And it resonates in a choir where young and old sing side by side, not to impress, but to belong. She teaches us not to play louder, but to listen deeper. She reminds us that a note held in silence can change a life, that beauty, like peace, begins with attention. As we honor her today, let us also commit to protecting this fragile space of culture, of transmission, of grace. And let this award be not an ending, but a passage, not a closing chord, but a brief between what has been and what still calls us forward. To the next generation who will inherit not only our music, but our silences. May they understand that creation begins where competitions ends. And so, to those who will listen to our music long after we are gone, that a young pianist discovering silence, to a teacher searching for meaning in a noisy classroom, to a policymaker who dares to listen. Know this: Maria João Pires did not come to impress us. She came to remind us that what is fragile is not weak. It is what music be protected most. Her notes were not loud, but they reached far, because truth always travels quietly. May we now be worthy of her echo. Maria João, your music will remain where words fall short. You are and will always be a soft light, a listening soul. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my honor to give the floor to the laureate of the Helena Vaz da Silva Award 2025, Maria João Pires.
Paul, wait a moment. Before you are staying here, we indeed invite Maria João Pires to come for the presentation of the award, together with Maria Calado with Guilherme de Oliveira Martins. Madam Minister, yes, indeed, and Turismo Portugal, an important supporter of this award. So please join us all on stage for the presentation of the award, and then we will give the floor to Maria João Pires. Voilà.
Senhora Ministra, podemos atribuir em conjunto a Maria João Pires o símbolo deste prémio.
Il est là. On va voir. Où sont les photographes? On va juste voir comme ça avec les photographes. Je ne les vois pas. Ils sont là. Enfin, je vois plein de photographes, mais l'officiel, le photographe officiel, où il est? Ah, there you are. Make sure that... Voilà. Ok. Maria João, le discours est sur le... Oh, il vous attend.
Começa com mais nada. Começa com mais nada. Obrigada, sim, desculpe. Não sei se me estão a ouvir bem. Desde sempre eu acreditei em milagres. Desde sempre acreditei, talvez ingenuamente, em muitas coisas, em quase tudo. Na libertação da criatividade, na ânsia por uma fonte de inspiração autêntica e verdadeira, na bondade primordial, no primeiro sorriso que uma criança faz à mãe quando a descobre e a reconhece. Um sorriso repleto de gratidão e de luz, talvez mesmo de lucidez. Parece-me que essa gratidão é inata, não é adquirida, e penso que devia ser guardada e respeitada ao longo de toda a nossa vida. A gratidão por tudo o que nos é dado, por tudo o que ouvimos e vemos, por tudo o que nos
everything that enchants us, for everything that brings us happiness and allows us to dream, move, sing, or smile. This state of mind, when awake, awakens in us the ability to access a deeper consciousness, nobler feelings, forgiveness, and empathy. Associate or dissociate, collaborate or compete. We mustn't forget that competition often leads us to forget what is essential, the community, the group, our deepest nature. It makes us forget that human rights are for everyone, and that this should never be a cause for doubt or hesitation. Winning, in the sense that we normally understand it, is not a solution for life, for the art of living. Winning means wanting to possess, wanting someone else to lose in our favor. The unlimited capacity that human beings have developed throughout history to kill, destroy, annihilate is truly frightening and inexplicable. The unthinkable has happened. New wars, a new genocide in the 21st century, the century of hope, of peace, the century of science, of extraordinary advances in technology and medicine, and the appearance of artificial intelligence. We have witnessed heinous massacres, the destruction of peoples, cultures, and without mercy, the massacre of the planet itself. It seems that suddenly we have to ask ourselves, are human beings, after all, unintelligent, or simply incapable of evolving with the experience they've acquired? In a way, it means exploiting, taking advantage, not caring, being indifferent to others, rejecting the reality of the group, the common bond. To lose is to be left outside, to be left out of the group. Artistic and creative action presupposes and implies the absence of feelings of conquest, possession, and seduction. True art is a non-aggressive activity. Composing or playing an instrument, whether performing or improvising, can be at its core very close to the act of listening, active, authentic, participatory listening that influences a phenomenon that does not belong to us and which we call art. It is in this open, empty space, maybe even empty, that the unknown may appear. What is new, which is the space of the soul. I began to talk about gratitude, and it is with that same feeling that I received this award. First of all, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Helena Vaz da Silva for her life, her courage, her vision, and for everything she left us as a moral and spiritual legacy. Helena Vaz da Silva was a voice that eliminated past, a woman who believed that culture is a form of freedom, and that freedom is in itself a form of beauty. This award, which bears her name, is therefore a tribute to the inner strength that transforms thought into action, and sometimes dreams into reality. I accept it with gratitude, not for something I won, but for something that was offered to me, entrusted to me, as a gesture of recognition that transcends the individual and belongs to the journey, to all those who went on this journey with me. So all of those who helped me, those who taught me, those who supported me in moments of doubt and silence. To those who believed with me in miracles and friendship, in compassion, in generosity, in curiosity, and in discovery. I am deeply grateful to those who, from near or far, have been part of this journey, visible or invisible. I would like to thank Dr. Helena Martins and the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, who for the last 50 years have supported me. I would like to thank the Secretary General of Europa Nostra, Snezhka Kvedlik-Mihailovic. Thank you very much. The Minister for Culture and Sport, Margarida Balseiro Lopes, Professor Maria Calado from the National Cultural Centre, Dr. Teresa Ferreira from Tourism Portugal, the members of the jury, Dr. Denise D'Abreu from the Portuguese Press Club, and Paul Dujardin, who I've worked with for so many years. I would like to thank everyone who made this gathering possible, this celebration of culture, freedom, and the human spirit, and the human soul. I would like to thank those who listened to me, those who inspired me, those who gave me the time, patience, and affection. Europa Nostra is giving Europe something I call an opportunity, a new rebirth. It represents reintegrating human values and cultural values in a Europe that perhaps is too set on the economic side. A Europe that is bringing something that seems to have lost an identity, a soul. For me, it would be a privilege to be able to collaborate in this process. I received this award hoping that art will continue to bring us together, remind us of our frailty and our strength. I think to care is to look after one another. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. I started playing the piano when I was 3. I fell in love with music at that age and developed a boundless interest in sound. In all its nuances, colours, everything that was in any way related to it. As a child, I experienced this resonance with my body. This vibration passed through me and projected me into a different world, perhaps different from the real one, or what we call real. I never felt truly adapted or included, despite all my efforts, huge efforts, to feel accepted, to accept myself, to recognize myself as part of a society, a group, friends and colleagues. These efforts were productive to a certain extent. I learned to fight, to distinguish, to recognize injustice in the world. I'm lost, I'm sorry. So I learnt about practical life, work, home, children, joys, problems, and deceptions. I was left between two worlds, the world of sound, always rich in flexibility, movement, and connection with all phenomena of art and unlimited imagination. And the other, which we call the real world, although both seem very real to me. So I took on the role of pianist for many years. The choice was part of my desire for inclusion, my deep desire not to be rejected, and at the same time never to reject others. I worked a lot. I planned very little. I became deeply interested in science and literature, also as a means of understanding and belonging. I made many mistakes, perhaps due to poor judgment. Anyway, what I call good and bad intertwined, communicated, and ultimately produced results. I ended my career as a pianist a couple of months ago. I fell ill, and I believe I am now in the process of healing. I fell ill because I tried to surpass myself and tried to go beyond forbidden limits. Now, I find myself in a process of radical change, in a search for truth, on a path of acceptance, perhaps of understanding what I never accepted before. It's good to think the future is uncertain, unknown, perhaps surprising. This uncertainty puts us in a state of insecurity. Often it's creative. Security, after all, does not open so many doors. It may even close us off to a greater understanding of the universe, of infinity. Thank you very much, everybody.
Please remain seated because we still have one person who would like to congratulate the winner of the Helena Vaz da Silva Award. A very important personality from Portugal. Before giving the floor to that very important personality, I just want to thank you all for your presence tonight. This was a very, very special evening and a privilege for all of us to be witnessing Maria João Pires receiving this year Helena Vaz da Silva European Award. Maria João, thank you once again and congratulations. has been an honor for me to be the master of ceremony. I say to all of you and to the ones who are watching us via live stream, see you next year. But now it is my honor and great pleasure to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Portugal. We wish to express once again the deepest gratitude to President Rebelo de Sousa for his loyal and enthusiastic support to the Helena Vaz da Silva European Award. Please show us the video message.
Nem imaginam a dor que tenho de não poder estar, especialmente este ano, isso já aconteceu várias vezes, por me encontrar no estrangeiro numa missão oficial, por uma coincidência de datas, no momento da entrega do prémio Helena Vaz da Silva, na Fundação Calouste Gulbenkian e com um papel relevantíssimo do Centro Nacional de Cultura. A primeira razão, ano após ano, já o disse e repito, é Helena Vaz da Silva. O prémio tem um nome, Helena Vaz da Silva. Helena Vaz da Silva foi excepcional no domínio da sua capacidade de aprendizagem cultural, em domínios muito diferentes, em áreas muito variadas, ao longo de toda a sua vida. Esteve no jornalismo, escreveu, teve um papel decisivo no Centro Nacional de Cultura, promoveu a cultura, presidiu em instituições ligadas à cultura, públicas e privadas, foi deputada europeia, sempre que pôde, esteve presente naquilo que era fundamental, nomeadamente para Portugal, no âmbito da cultura. Era uma mulher de cultura. Era uma mulher de espírito sempre jovem, de visão de futuro, com capacidade de inovação, de criatividade. Amava viver, gostava de viver pensando nos outros e considerava que a cultura, ligada à educação, era a melhor via para proporcionar a felicidade aos outros. E dentro da cultura, lutando pelo património cultural, que é ao mesmo tempo uma riqueza do nosso país, mas às vezes aparece como pobreza, de tal forma deixamos degradar o nosso património. Não é esse o caso neste momento, com a utilização de fundos europeus. Pois este prémio é uma homenagem a Helena Vaz da Silva, à mulher da cultura, à mulher, em todos os sentidos mais nobres do termo, e também à europeia, à europeísta. É um prémio que, sendo universal, é sobretudo europeu. Porquê é que eu tenho uma dupla pena, uma dupla dor por não poder entregar o prémio? Porque a premiada este ano podia ser uma grande personalidade estrangeira, aconteceu várias vezes, ou uma instituição, uma entidade estrangeira. Não, é Maria João Pires. E o nome diz tudo. Maria João Pires é dos casos mais espantosos da cultura portuguesa no Portugal contemporâneo. Espantosa pelo seu gênio. Espantosa pela forma como, década após década, projetou esse gênio cá dentro e lá fora. Espantosa pela capacidade de se recriar quando uns ou outros temem que esteja já próxima demais do termo de uma carreira. Espantosa na música, que é o essencial da sua afirmação cultural mais conhecida. Mas por trás da música há o conhecimento da realidade cultural toda e da realidade social toda. E há, depois, para além da intérprete, a personalidade que está por trás dessa intérprete. No que tem de racional e de emotivo, no que tem de estudo atual.
What is rational and how improvisation and everything overcomes the borders of possible, of what is possible. So, but this is culture. The best thing of culture is it's perpetual. It doesn't die. It remains with us. That's a wonderful association. Helena Vaz da Silva, who we missed. She's been gone for too long now. And Maria João Pires is a stronger and stronger presence, more alive and very expressive in Portuguese culture and universal culture.
The session is now over. We'd like to thank you for your presence, and we hope to see you once again in 2026 for the 14th European Award, Helena Vaz da Silva, for the dissemination or awareness raising of cultural heritage. Thank you.